Hello, everybody. Good morning. Happy Monday. This is Brett Davis coming to you from the Brett Davis podcast show, coming to you from Coronado, California. I'm very honored to meet one of the busiest guys in San Diego and actually in the United States right now, because he's in Temecula. So I don't know if Temecula is considered, it doesn't consider San Diego, but Miguel Aguilar, who's the president and CEO of Self-Made Training Facilities from Temecula. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing really well. And yourself?
Great. I've read your story, and we have a mutual friend, Yvette, and your story is very inspiring because, with all the craziness going on in the world, I mean, it's all about survival, isn't it?
Yeah, it is 100% survival in every aspect of the way.
So, what's interesting? We started our podcast, and I've been in radio. I started with ESPN radio a while back, and, we did very well there. But then we decided to do this podcasting in March of last year when the whole pandemic thing happened. And I think the timing was right, but a lot of people just crumbled.
They did.
They flatlined, and they're still holding on just barely. All these businesses, and the thing is, a lot of these people have never been under circumstances that have challenged them.
Yeah.
Your story is like that. I mean, your story is about overcoming every obstacle, and the odds were against you. You shouldn't even be where you're at today. Start with your upbringing.
Yeah, I should either be different for that. There's no way, given my past, I'd be in the position that I am today. But at the same token, it's made me who I am today. So I've had a very rough upbringing in every aspect of the way. A mother that did not care for us in a sense, showed that she cared or thought that she cared, but really didn't. Put us in multiple scenarios where our life was threatened, and also we were in the system before. And then by the time I was 12, she decided to leave us with my father. My father at that point, he left a year before. They reconnected. She told us that, hey, you haven't seen your father for a year. Let me go ahead and leave you guys here for a couple of weeks. I'll come back and pick you guys up. And then yet never heard from her again. At this point, my father already remarried, had a whole nother family. They're in a 2-bedroom apartment in Riverside, California. Now they have 2 young kids. Me and my younger brother, 11 and 12 years old, get pawned off with a father that didn't want to be with us in the first place. But hey, look, we're going to put you guys here. He already remarried, had a daughter himself, and then 2 other stepsisters that we had at that point. So you can imagine you have 5 kids and 2 adults in a 2-bedroom apartment in Riverside off of Magnolia. The resentment built up. Our stepmother hated us, disliked us in every aspect of the way. We weren't supposed to be there, and we weren't supposed to be there for a long term. We were supposed to be there for a small little gathering with our dad, because we haven't seen him for the year prior. That turned into.
Tell me a little bit about your father also, because that's it's one situation after the other. I mean, you just can get a foothold on success as a young man.
Yeah, we didn't catch a break. Me and my brother did not catch a break whatsoever. It went to, having the abandonment happen. And then my father was a heavy drug addict, alcoholic, heavy alcoholic, but a functioning one. He was a hard worker, very hard worker. He's an immigrant from Guatemala. He came here at the age of 11, ended up starting off as a baker, and then worked his way up. And then he ended up owning his own franchise, Yum Yum Donuts. So he owned a few Yum Yum Donuts, and he worked for a few Yum Yum Donuts. So he was always a go-getter, very strong work ethic, but had a lot of demons when it had to do with drugs and alcohol. So by the time I was 16, he committed a crime that landed him in prison for 22 years.
Oh, wow.
So they David sentenced him. About a week later, our stepmother kicks us out. She tells us, hey, you can no longer stay here. I can't keep you guys here. You guys are no welcome here. And, my initial response was, well, what the hell are we supposed to do? And I remember verbatim, she said, figure it out. And our back was against the wall. This is survival mode, 100% sink or swim. I told my brother, we've been in the system before when our mother went to prison for a couple of years, and we lived with our dad. So we've been in the system where, we have no care. So I never wanted to put my younger brother and myself in that scenario again. So I told him, hey, grab your shit. Let's put it in the car. Put it in the car. and, tried to find somewhere to stay, called a bunch of friends, said, hey, our parents are out of town. We don't want to stay home tonight. Is it okay if we crash? Of course, it was school night, so everybody was like, no, all the parents were no. And this is back where we had payphones. So I'd go to the liquor store in the corner called Fast Strip in Riverside, right next to my high school. Went there, dropped a bunch of quarters trying to get somewhere to stay. And all the parents would, deny our stay because it was a school night. So that first night we slept in our car. And that happened for about 8 months. I did that for about 8 months. We would hustle whatever we could, work whatever we could, make money however we could. We would shower at gyms, actually. So there was a Valley Total Fitness gym off of off of Madison in Riverside, California. And I had a membership there because I was a wrestler. So I grew up wrestling. I'd wrestled in high school. I was a very competitive wrestler. I was a state, national, and CIF, the whole nine. But that was my sport. I loved it. So the only reason I still went to school, even though we had no parents telling us to go to school, I went because, I loved wrestling. It was my thing. And so I would shower at Valley Soul Fitness, go to school. I did that for about 8 months. And then so my father, when they incarcerated him, I wasn't 18 yet, so I wasn't able to see him in prison. So I didn't get to see him again until I was about 18. Now, when I saw him when I was 18, at this point, I was already a senior in high school. I was dating a girl that she ended up driving me to Tehachapi State Prison. I took a bunch of quarters with me for commissary and for their vending machines, because that's what he requested. So you can get a couple soda pops and Snicker bars. That was his favorite candy. And I show up. And the day I show up, I built in a lot of resentment. At this point, I already had a full-time job. I was working graveyard at homegrocer.com, packaging people's groceries for home deliveries, from midnight till 10 in the morning, go straight from Fullerton, California, drive all the way back to Riverside, California to go to school in senior year, and then my wrestling practice, and then go home and sleep for about 3-4 hours and then do it all over again. By the time at the end of my senior year, I ended up getting my first apartment. I knew what utilities were. I knew how to shop at Food for Less. I knew how to do groceries, like the whole nine, everything that a typical 17, 18-year-old kid would not be doing, I took all that in. So when I showed up, the first thing that once we sat down and got settled, I asked him, Dad, why did you do what you did? And his initial response was like, Mijo, you're too young to understand. He said that in Spanish. And I lost my shit. I went crazy on him, in a sense. I told him, you have no effing idea. I know what a utility bill is. I know what rent is. I know this. I know that. And it's like, you're telling me I'm too young. I was like, if you can't explain yourself, I'm done with you. And that was the last time I seen my dad and didn't talk to my dad. So after that, he served about 9 years, and then he got deported back to Guatemala. And then come to find out, to even back forward a little bit, at 18, I had to go get my birth certificate and ID updated to go visit him in prison. So I had to go to county recorder's office and get a copy of my birth certificate. And I found out on my birth certificate, there's a different man's name on my birth certificate. So so I started questioning. I was like, who's this guy on my birth certificate? My mother's name was there, and I carry my mother's maiden name. And I look at the birth certificate, and there's a completely different man's name. And so I had no other resource to find out what this was all about besides my stepmother, who already we weren't talking at this point. But I got the courage to give her a call and say, hey, I know you don't like me. I know we don't got, things going on, but I got a question. Is it possible you can answer it? And she was like, there's a different man's name on my birth certificate. Is my dad, or what is it about? Was it, again, one of my mother's crazy things that she did? And she was like, oh, I thought you knew already. I was like, your dad's not your dad. And then she hung up.
Yeah.
And so at 18, I'm like, again, a whole nother can of worms that you're like, what the, F. So
you can't get a handle who you are. There's a lot of confusion. It's like, who am I? What am I? What's going on? I mean, you have no foundation at all.
None. I had no foundation. Everything I've ever learned has been on my own or the people within my circle. Obviously, when I was a kid, I got into gangs just like any rough kid in a rough neighborhood. I grew up in Riverside, California, between Orlando and Casablanca. So that was my neighborhood. I ended up selling drugs when I was a kid. I ended up hustling, burn CDs. I would burn CDs and put people's music on, selling $5 a CD. And I would go steal the CDs from the warehouse. They used to call the warehouse. It was like a CD shop, video shop where you can go get a bunch of blanks, burn a bunch of music on it, and I'd sell it. I'd hustle whatever I could hustle just to make ends meet. And then I worked my very first job at the mall, where it's selling women's clothing at Contempo. I literally did everything I possibly could to make ends meet. So the foundation that I had was, one, I got to work my ass off, and two is I got to keep this a secret. I didn't want the school to know, my high school to know, because then I didn't want me and my brother to get
Child Protective Services or the government to step in and basically put you guys in a foster home or some type of facility where you guys would just be like part of the system.
100%, because we've done that before.
Right.
So
it didn't work.
No,
I got one question for you. So you're working this graveyard shift at the grocery store, packing groceries, and you go right to school from the graveyard shift.
Yep.
You go to your 4 classes, your 3 classes. You do your wrestling, which wrestling probably saved you in some way, I would think.
Oh, wrestling is like the reason I am who I am.
Right. That's what I'm putting together here. And then you basically almost didn't pass high school. You almost got held back, but there was an English teacher.
Yeah.
Tell me about that English teacher.
So it was keeping a secret and not letting everybody know. The only other person I knew was Chris Gillespie, who actually allowed me to sleep in his home, and his father allowed me. He graduated in 97. He helped me in 99. And he's the one that actually got me the job at Home Grocer. So he was a huge impact on my life. But my English teacher, so that was my 4th period class. So I would drive from Fullerton all the way back to Riverside to try to make my 11 a.m. class. And I was always late. I would fall asleep in class. My projects and homework was never done on time. I mean, I was struggling. And I've never been an academic kid. I've never been a bookworm. I just basically barely passed a pass. And a lot of it is because of my ADHD and things that, they've been trying to medicate me since I was a kid, but we never did it. But this English teacher, remember, we're gearing towards the last semester of the school year, and she tells me to stay after class one day and gives me some unfortunate news. She's like, Miguel, you're failing. You're not going to be able to walk with your class. You're not going to be able to graduate. You'll graduate, but you're going to have to take summer to be able to get this class passed. Then you'll get your diploma. So unfortunately, I need to prepare you for that. And I was like, I just lost it. I was like, no, that can't happen. I have to graduate. I got to either join the army. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to go work. And I can't come back to school. I need my diploma. And she was like, what do you mean? And I was like, I just can't. There's got to be something I can do. And she was like, unfortunately, I can't help you. And at that point, I was like, you just don't understand. I just can't tell you what's going on in my life because I don't want to get in trouble. I just can't, I just can't. And she was like, is everything okay? I was like, yeah, I just can't tell you. I just can't. She was like, do I need to get, the school involved if something happened? I was like, I asked her, if you promised me not to tell the school, would you please just hear me out? And she was like, I can't promise you that. So I have to respond in a certain way. It depends on the scenario. That's a F it. I just like, all right, this is what's going on. My dad went to prison. I've been living in my car for the first 6 to 8 months. Chris Gillespie has allowed me to stay in his house. I just want to graduate so I can go to work and figure out what I'm going to do with my life. I want to join the army. I'm going to get a scholarship in wrestling. I got something laid out. I just need a little bit of help. Is there any extra work I can do or anything I can do to help? And she was like, when did this happen? I was like, last year. This was already a year later. She was like, and you've been coming to school this whole time? I said, yes, I need to graduate because I need to work. And she was like, do you have any proof of this? And because, of course, she was like, this kid's fabricating the story. I was like, I do. And then she was like, well, can you bring that to school tomorrow? And then I was like, can you do me a big favor and just not tell anybody for right now? She was like, I can't promise you that, but just bring me your stuff tomorrow. And I was like, all right, fine. So that whole 24 hours, I was stressing out of my mind. Just, we're screwed. I'm going to go to the system. I'm done. Only got a few months left, and this is going to blow over. I show up. I come back with my dad's docs. They're called docs. Is basically his paperwork showing his sentencing and stuff like that. I was able to keep that stuff because that's what I needed to go see him. And I showed it to her and I said, look, I'm living with Chris. Chris can come in here and talk to you. He graduated in 97. She knew Chris because she was a well-known English teacher there. And she sat back and she was like, I remember her. She didn't even ask in detail what just happened. She just said, it's like, who do you aspire to be? Who do you look up to? I was like, what do you mean? It's like, well, who'd you ever want to be like? I was like, Bo Jackson. I was like, who's Bo Jackson? Why Bo Jackson? Like, if you know Bo Jackson, Bo knows. Like, the dude, he played every sport and killed it. Anything he ever did, he killed it. And he gave it 100%. Like, that's Bo Jackson. And she was like, I need you to do me a big favor. I need you to write me a report on Bo Jackson. And you have X amount of time. Yeah. So she knew what she was doing. And in that time, I did the article on Bo Jackson. I turned it in, and I was able to get my passing grade to go ahead and walk with my class and graduate. So that was.
Have you ever had a chance to meet Bo Jackson yet?
No, I never got a chance to meet Bo Jackson. One day I will.
We got to help set that up somewhere along the way. Maybe we need to do a meeting somehow. We need to figure out how to meet up with Bo Jackson, and I'll try to set that up where all of us can meet up.
And that's the thing too, is like I was going to pull on my phone, but I know you couldn't see it through the screen, but it's crazy how I knew back then, all the way since the age of 12, I knew I would become something. It's weird. Like I manifested everything.
It's not weird at all because I've heard very similar things from other very successful people. They just knew.
Yeah.
And from the very beginning. And
I documented everything. I can show you on my phone.
I believe you.
Every picture I ever thought that would be important in my life, I kept. That Bo Jackson school report, I took a picture of the cover. I still have it actually in my shoebox. The letter of me getting denied grants, I kept because I got denied grants and financial aid because I didn't have my parents' tax returns to show I was low income.
How many times were you? Did they say no to you?
Oh fuck! I wanted to go to college. Like I did not want to go to college. I wanted to.
God had other plans for you. He didn't want you to go to college.
No, he didn't. 100%. He knew I wouldn't succeed in it. I've never been.
You're not the definition of you is you're not unique. You're a unique.
Yeah,
it's a different level than unique. You're a unique. There's nobody like you. You're your own fingerprint. Your own unique individual. God had a plan for you because there's a lot of people out there that could use their circumstances for why they can't get to where they want to go. And so you're a huge example and inspiration to people out there that need to hear your story.
Yeah. And I've shared it a few times. Actually, for me, sharing my story and the reason I do like doing these podcasts and kind of every time I hear my story again, it's kind of like a reaffirming where I'm at, and also it's therapeutic. I never believed in counseling or therapy just because they would always tell me like the same. It would never kind of fix the problem within myself. Plus, just like my father, I became a drug addict, alcoholic myself. It's like ingrained. It was in me. And at the age of
your DNA.
Yeah, at the age of 12, I had my very first hard drug, and then drank with my dad on my first tall can. I was 12 years old then too. All the way up to 32, 33. I was a functioning drug addict, alcoholic. And again, it's one of those things where I was masking so much of my past that now when I do talk about this and I'm open about it, even with my father's crime and things of that nature, where it's therapeutic, it's again, telling my brain, hey, look how far you've come. Because for me, I feel like I'm barely scratching the surface. I don't think I've done anything yet super amazing, but from the outside in, people look at it differently, Well,
how old are you now?
I'll be 40 in August. August 1st, I'll be 40.
Yeah. Males typically hit their stride when they start really getting, in your situation is completely uniquely different, but typically 35 for a male seems to be that one area where things really start to kind of gel and come together because of life experience. And then between 35 and 55, and I find the older males get up until like maybe 70 or so, that are climbing, the successful ones that I've known and I've met, you're only going to refine and define what you're doing and become only better at what you're doing.
Yes. And then that's what I'm doing. Now I have 6 years sobriety. June 19th will be my 6th year.
That's a miracle. Great job.
Thank you. And that was a decision that, again, it's like that wrestler mentality. It's I either have an on switch or an off switch. I turn that one off.
So do you continue to go to AA, or I mean, how does that work?
I was very fortunate that I didn't have to go through AA. I believe in AA. I have good friends that have to use AA as a source of keeping their sobriety. For me, it's like I want to call it, I never want to be a hypocrite. Mm-hmm. And if I'm promoting health and wealth, like Self-Made Training Facility is the reason why I'm sober. One of the reasons why I'm sober, because the first year that I opened up Self-Made, I'm promoting health, wealth, entrepreneurship through health and wealth, while I'm disappearing Friday night and won't come back mentally till Monday morning. And that whole year, as I'm watching myself grow in business and watching my following and my mentorship grow, I felt like a hypocrite. And that's one thing that doesn't sit well. The person you get to meet in person is the same person behind closed doors. So after one weekend binge, or after Father's Day weekend, I was like, this is it. I'm done. So I decided to just turn off the switch and said, hey, this is not, because I didn't drink for 1 or 2 drinks. I drank to get drunk. And then from drunk, I went to go look for the other stuff that would keep me sober, not sober, kind of wake me back up and stuff. So I had a really bad, between cocaine, ecstasy, and every other drug you can think of besides heroin. I dabbled in it, but cocaine was my thing. If I got really drunk, I'd do cocaine, then cocaine, go back to drinking. And it's just not a good combination. But no one ever really thought, besides the friends that I had in that group obviously you are a product of your environment. And so for me, I had to cut that out of my life. And ever since then, I haven't looked back. And my main thing is just being able to be open about it. I put myself on blast as soon as I decided I was going to get sober. I put myself on social media and said, hey, look, I've been living a double life. This is not who I want to be. This is not who I want to become. And I don't want to be a hypocrite. So every day was, again, telling myself, you're leading by example. You have people that are wanting to follow in your footsteps. You don't want to lead them towards thinking that's acceptable, because some of us don't have that on and off switch. Some of us don't have the ability to say no. If I can encourage people to do that with my actions, that's a lot better than me trying to tell you.
So usually when change happens, it's usually a rock bottom scenario. Did you have a rock bottom scenario?
Fortunately, I didn't. Besides the guilt of being a hypocrite and potentially losing everything that I've worked my ass off for. It was, again, what am I running away from? I don't run away from anything, but I was running away from the fear of abandonment, running away from, my own demons, in the sense of my past. And at one point, stop running and say, hey, I got to face exactly who I am. And for the first time in my life, I truly love myself, versus trying to fill it in with voids of other things. Or you have to understand, when you're in the party scene, you're around a lot of people. So that felt welcoming to me. It felt like family. And it was like, no, I have a beautiful family at home. What am I trying to do? I don't care to be surrounded by hundreds of people anymore. Now I love being by myself. I actually love my self time and my daughters and things of that nature. Now I fill it with good, positive influences. And then now my circle is even stronger. It's a lot more clarity and a lot more in-depth relationships.
So who you surround yourself with, whether it's a team at work or your friends, is very vital for you being successful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Because everybody will ask, well, who's your mentor? That's like a little bit of everybody. You really think about it. There's a couple key factors, key people in business that I admire, and I see what they're doing, and I mimic. I don't copy people. I mimic. One thing is, like, I wake up at 5 o'clock every morning. Every morning I am up and I'm getting the day started. I learned that from my real estate mentor, Frank, because he said 5 o'clock in the morning, you can get all your personal stuff out of the way by 7 and you start working. You can answer your phone calls. You're not going to get bothered from 5 to 8 typically. So, hey, this is where you do you. And then you have the rest of the day to handle. You're not wasting any time. So what do I start doing? I start waking up at 5. If this guy's successful and he has a beautiful life, has things that I want, and has a successful career, maybe my ass needs to wake up at 5 a.m. too.
It's interesting that you say this. a while back, and maybe a couple of years ago, I had a chance to talk to Mark Wahlberg. You know Mark
Oh,
Wahlberg,
yeah, he's awesome.
and he's an interesting guy, just like you are. And his days typically start at 4.
Yeah, yeah,
He
I
gets,
believe it.
I mean, he said almost exactly the same thing that you did. And he has time to take his kids to school after he's gotten his first thing he does is he prays in the morning for about 30 minutes. He gets his workout in, his trainer comes to the house, and then he actually even plays golf. But the way he plays golf, have you heard how he plays golf?
No.
He hits the ball and runs from hole to hole. He has the bags on he does cardio golf.
Oh,
So he hits
that's
the
awesome.
ball and then he runs to the ball and he does a short game and then he goes and takes his kids to school. It's all about time efficiency. And you remind me of somebody like that. And I think what's important is with the craziness in this world, and I hope we can talk again because there's so much information you have. I don't think we're going to get everything in this interview today because it's very overwhelming for the average person to comprehend. It's inspiring. And everybody has challenges, but your story should allow people to think, you know what, this is possible. I can do some of this.
And that's why I share. That's the only reason I share. I don't get
Sure.
any. I get to pay it forward that way. You know, I had pretty instrumental relationships as I was growing up that I was able to pivot my life because I was right in the gray area for a very long time. But those simple little conversations or something I heard or something I read allowed me to pivot and change my life for the better. And there's just multiple small pivots over the course of the last 20 something years. And that's where I am at today. And even yet, I'm still always going to be a student. I'm still constantly learning and evolving. I tell people, look, I'm chasing perfection, knowing I'll never be perfect. And what I mean by that is that, look, I know I'll never be perfect. I know I'm always going to be growing, you know, spiritually, mentally, physically, in every aspect of the way. I'm going to be a student for the rest of my life. But if I'm always, you know, chasing that perfection, I'm always improving. You know, and then I'll get, you know, there's people out there that whether there be naysayers or just people that don't quite understand our dialogue, is that they'll ask, well, aren't you content? Aren't you happy? What do you need to be chasing? I was like, no, look, I'm completely happy and satisfied, but I'm not content. I will never be.
I had a mentor, Bill Phillips, who wrote the Body for Life book years back. And one thing that he always suggested and said was progress, not perfection.
Mhm.
As long as you're making little steps forward every day, it'll never be perfect. But as long as you make a little move every day towards becoming better, that's what you should realistically aim for. And I thought that clarified a lot of the things you're talking about. So how much does family play a part in what you do?
Everything. My daughters are my world. You know, unfortunately, with sobriety and the growth of the business, me and my ex-wife grew apart. And I was divorced 2 years ago. Definitely not something that I wanted personally. It wasn't my choice, but I'm thankful for it because it, you know, allowed both of us to still be amazing co-parents. I tell people we are co-parents. I'm not a single dad. My ex-wife is completely involved, and I'm super involved with my kids. We family's everything to me. You know, that was another pivotal point in my life where it allowed me to improve even further as a father and as a potential, you know, mate. In a sense, I was able to fix things that were needing to be fixed. So it was a blessing in disguise. It really was. Don't wish it upon anybody, you know, and if it was my choice, I would never ever want to be divorced. But at the same token, you know, family is a unit, and I still will protect my daughters to the end. And I'm going to lead them in the proper format. I'm going to lead them to become amazing young ladies. They are definitely, you know, as cliche as it sounds, it's like people say they're my motivation. In all reality, they are. They motivate me to do better, to be better, and then of course makes me better.
Well, you know, the thing is, you have a lot of trauma that you've gone through, post-traumatic stuff.
Mhm.
And and I'm not making excuses for any of that because we all have something that we're dealing with from our past. Things just don't go away right away. And nobody's given us a playbook and how to be the best that we can be as husbands and fathers. These are sometimes things we have to go through a process to get to where we're going. It's just not something you can just take from a book.
There's no blueprint to any of this, you
No,
know.
everybody's
Absolutely no.
uniquely different.
And I had no structure and no one that I can mirror. You know, my parents are the worst parents you possibly could have.
You
So
had
I
the
had
parents, right?
yeah. So it's not like I knew how to be a great husband because I had my father be a great husband to my mother. No, they very abusive, a lot of abuse in many different ways. And then, you know, I didn't have a mother for the nurturing aspect of how to nurture and love and things of that nature. I lost that at 12. You know, imagine at 12 years old, you lose your motherly hug. You know, and when you motherly hug, there's a difference between a hug and a motherly hug.
Yeah,
Like
I know
you
that.
lose,
Yep.
yeah, there you lose it completely.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I totally get it. That hug from your mother is vital, and there's that motherly hug, like you said, and there's just that quick whatever it is. There's a difference between the two. Not everybody knows that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Not a lot of people can, you know, a lot of people would sympathize with my story, but I don't need sympathy. You know, I want if anything, it's like the empathy aspect. You know, it's not like you said. You can if you can empathize with that, you get it, then you understand that feeling. Until then,
Mhm.
you have no idea. You'll sympathize with it, and I get it. There's nothing wrong with that either. But to really be in touch with what my head and what my heart feels at times is like that's where I never wanted to be like my parents. So I literally hug my kids every day. I kiss them every day. I talk to them every night before they go to bed. And especially right now, obviously with the co-parenting, they're with me 50% of the time. And I hate using that word 50%. You know, it's just,
I know.
it, it bugs the shit out of me and
Of course
it
it does.
gets me out. Yeah, it gets me more. Yeah, I wish I could be with my kids every day, you know,
So how
but
many kids? Two kids?
yeah, two girls. I got
What
a 13 and a
what are the ages?
so they'll be 13 and 14 this June.
Yeah. You know why you got daughters, right?
Oh, 100%.
Because you're a
Yep.
player. You're a
Yep.
player, and now karma's come back to you and gave you daughters.
I was growing up, I
You
was,
bad boy. You bad boy.
I was
Sorry.
figuring like, you know, and that's the thing. It's like, God knew I needed daughters, you know,
Oh yeah, they changed. I got all daughters. I have
yeah,
3 daughters. I know what you're talking about.
it saved my life in multiple ways.
Oh yeah.
I mean, she literally saved my life and she doesn't even know it, you know,
Your oldest daughter?
my little blondie. She's my
Yeah.
little blonde brunette. And then Riley, my peanut, she's my twin. I mean, that kid
Oh
has
man. That's the one that's gonna tear your heart out.
100. I already told her, I was like, I already told my daughters, like, I'm already prepared for heartbreak, babe. I get
Oh
it.
yeah. I
You
can
know?
feel it already. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh at you. I'm laughing at myself. I'm laughing at myself too because I totally can relate to what you're saying.
It's crazy. But, you know, the wonderful thing about our relationship is that we have a very open relationship. I'm very frank with my kids. I'm very direct with my kids. I don't, I don't, I don't I don't
Candy coat.
shelter them so
Yeah, you don't
much, you
candy
know?
coat it. Yeah.
No, I tell them, especially like with 2020 of what happened, I explained to them everything we believed in and why our core values are this, why it's good to trust information but verify it. Be a free thinker, like think for yourself, babe. Don't just take somebody's word, like understand it and be the why person. Like I would get in trouble my whole entire fucking life because I was a why, but why? Why I gotta do that? Why? You know? But it saved my life in multiple ways. Like I always tell people, I trust the information that comes in, but I'm always going to verify, especially if I have, because with my ADHD, it's hard for me to focus on certain things. But if it grabs my attention, I dissect the shit out of it. I will break it down to the bare bone and then rebuild it back up and say, okay, this is what we're going to do.
So I'm gonna on a closing note, and I hope you come back sometime and we talk about more of this stuff because I think this is like value to people out there because there's a lot of people right now that are lost more than ever. I think in this time.
I
Um,
agree.
what two things come to mind? First thing is, what are you doing so you don't go back to that type of life? Because there's something you've got to do on a daily basis that you don't want to go back so bad that you're not going to allow yourself to do certain bad habits to take you back there because you don't want to go back there because now you got your babies,
Yeah.
right?
It's just honestly, it's truly taking care of myself so I can take care of others. So sometimes you have to be selfish and you have to understand, look at it. If I can't take care of myself, if I can't love myself, if I can't respect myself, how can I do that with others? So my daily thing is always, my health is number one. My spirituality and my faith is, number one as well. It's one of those things. It's the multiple things that I do every day to make sure that I'm good, so then therefore I can take care of others. How can you put it this way? How can you respect other people if you don't even respect yourself? How can you love other people if you don't even love yourself? So a daily understanding of working on yourself, so therefore you can take care of others, especially in the business that I'm in, especially as a co-parent, especially as an entrepreneur in many aspects. You have to take care of yourself. If not, how can you take care of other people? And that's where people now have literally found they want instant gratification. They're not willing to put in the time to even to themselves. They rather like dabble here, dabble there. No, focus on what makes you, so therefore you can focus on other people, because that's what we're here for to do. I'm here to serve. If I can serve other people and do it with a clear mind and an open heart, I'm good. I'm a happy person.
What other what daily success should people be doing in order to pull themselves out of their situation? Tied up in a really, I know there's no quick answer to this, but what can people do in order to pull themselves out of a situation that maybe they're in? What kind of advice could you give?
Me personally, I love working out. I challenge myself by working out every day. It gets those natural endorphins up. You start thinking a little bit clearer. So if anything that can get your natural endorphins up, do it. Whether it be hiking, whether it be working out, anything active, get moving. You move.
Tony Robbins always said, emotion within emotion.
Yeah.
Once you start moving, it affects the emotion. Emotion within emotion. So I mean, it's you got to get moving.
Yep. And I do that every day. That's my first thing I do in the morning. And I make my bed every morning because it's the first accomplishment of the day. So
I also heard one thing, and I can't remember who said it: exercise and nutrition are the best antidepressants that are known to man.
100%. I am successful because of my fitness background. That's simple. And my health and what I put in my health.
I want to tell you, it's been an honor. I really have enjoyed this interview. We typically go 20 minutes. We've gone almost 40 minutes. So that has to tell you something. You're an awesome guy. I admire what you're doing, and we need to share your story with more people and get the message out there. I want to thank Miguel Aguilar, who's of course, self-made in so many ways.
Yep.
What's a good website people can go to?
So we have selfmadetrainingfacility.com and then miguelsworld.com. Those two websites, you'll see everything I'm involved with. The Miguel's World is more my personal website, but you'll see all the businesses I own. I own 9 companies total and growing. And then Self-Made Training Facilities, they're the one that really kind of put me on the map, just because it's a franchise. We're in 11 different states. I took a concept that no one was ever doing, or at least never tried to perfect it like we have. And now we're a national company and growing.
Well, I look forward to talking more with you and seeing how we can work together and help more people pull themselves out of the mess.
I like that.
Thank you, Miguel. God bless.
God bless. Take care.